He recorded hours of adverts and tried to ignore the distant dop, dop, dop of the post rammer. It had been 20 years since he and Don had sat down with a map of their farm's 50 acres, dividing it up with biro. They had lifted tons of freestone into the back of their narrow Bedford van and driven it across the fields. Slowly, shirtlessly, they had dug trenches, stacked stones Tetris style, and said almost nothing to each other except in the pure language of manual labor, coming home each day sunburnt and ennobled, and in truth, everyone else found them pretty irritating with their tiredness as honor shtick, as though they could return to the big house after a full day's real work and just drop like yes, stones, expecting admiration and exemption from washing up. He pressed play on the remote. The screen went blank, then the Channel 4 ident appeared. Here we go. It was a long car advert, 30 seconds, with a soundtrack of intricate electro. It showed a man in a silver car disintegrating into atoms, then reforming as a toboggan team, being led by the same man, then disintegrating again and reforming as a snow leopard, climbing an impossibly steep slope, the man a glint in the animal's eye, then disintegrating and reforming as two ballet dancers, the man and a beautiful Eastern European-looking woman, spinning on a lake, performing a difficult lift before turning back into the car in a Nordic landscape with the man driving, but now the ballet dancer in the passenger seat, smiling, brushing snow off his shoulders. The car was called the Avail. Patrick paused the video. He hadn't noticed, but Isaac and Albert were standing up. "Motherfucker," Albert said. "Brilliant," Isaac said. They hugged. What you have to remember is that every advert wants you to think something. What does this one want you to think? "The car is an amazing car," Albert said. "What a car," Isaac said, putting his arm round Albert's waist. "You see what it's done to you?" Don was watching from the doorway. He was wearing a jumper with the sleeves rolled up. He had stripes of mud on his forehead and cheeks. His beard had an actual twig in it, which seemed to Patrick a bit much. "What's happening, Pat?" Don said, squinting at the frozen image on the screen. "Media studies." "It's amazing, Dad," Albert said, and he ran to his father and lightly headbutted his stomach. "Okay," Don said, squeezing his son's shoulder. "And what are you learning about?" In 2002, Don had invented the ad guard after Kate, age 7, had learned a dance to an advert for yogurts. Pat remembered Don's speech at the meeting that evening, where he said he could whistle the tunes to, he estimated, nearly 200 adverts, and he sang, "Everyone's a fruit and nutcase, it keeps you going when you twist the caber," delivered slogans with perfect intonation, "It looks and tastes as good as fresh meat." And then he said, "Wouldn't it be better if our children could remember the words to poems or songs or stories? Loveliest of trees, the cherry now is hung with bloom along the bough and stands about the woodland ride, wearing white for Eastertide." This was in the days when his speeches really carried weight. He said he wasn't suggesting they get rid of the TV entirely, and to seal the deal, he revealed his ad guard, already made and ready to be glued on, cut from a square of shower curtain, attached to a rail, translucent enough to tell when adverts had finished, but misty enough to hide their content. "I thought it'd be good to teach them how to understand adverts," Patrick said, watching Don's eyes narrow, what they're trying to achieve, and as a result, remove their power. Both men knew that Don, with dirt on his forearms, grit in his T-zones, had the authority. Whatever experiences we have, no matter how we try to mediate them, affect us, Don said, putting his hand on top of Albert's head, and particularly young minds in ways we can't comprehend. Isaac watched, looking back and forth as they spoke. "But at some point they're going to have to face seeing adverts," Patrick said. "They should know how to deal with them." "That's just it, Pat. That's an assumption I'm not willing to make. Everything we see is a choice." A vein forced its way to the surface of Patrick's neck. There were still another 6 adverts on the tape. He had planned the lesson so that at the end there would be a couple of funnies to lighten things up. One about a talking sloth, and another about an army of dancing bacteria. Thanks very much. Cheers.